What is up, everybody? How is everybody doing? I'm doing quite good. Hopefully you guys are too. Welcome back to another video. For today's video, we're going to be looking at the top 3 mysterious encounters. If you guys enjoy, make sure to leave a like and let's jump on into this video. 24-year-old mystery. I want to know if anyone has experienced anything similar to what I saw back in 1999. 24 years ago, October 9th. The only reason I know this is because 8-year-old me was watching the premiere to the Disney Original Channel movie Don't Look Under the Bed. Before I continue, I'd like to give some backstory to the house I grew up in. I lived in Kingston, a part of Philadelphia that has the largest open heroin market. And so it looks like The Walking Dead with drugs addicts slugging around everywhere, and it wasn't uncommon seeing some of them go into back alleyways to shoot up. I was 4 or 5 years old at the time. I saw something out of the ordinary. I remember it clear as day. My siblings and I were playing in the middle bedroom, having a good time being kids. My mom has just introduced us to her brand new boyfriend at the time, and they came upstairs and watched us from the hall. I don't know what happened, but during our fun game, I got the feeling of being watched. I just had to turn in that direction, which happened to be the one window in the middle bedroom. I looked out and saw what at first appeared to be a man, but I looked closer and noticed that he doesn't have a face, and his skin from head to toe had the texture of wrinkled black plastic bag. I remember it reflecting the orange glow of the street lights and being scared. I was staring a good 20 to 30 seconds and quickly turned to my mom, who was standing at the door, and said there's somebody watching us. She rushed to the window, but it was gone. Fast forward and many events later, I'm on the couch watching Disney Channel. It was an ordinary day. I waited all day to watch this movie, and so I sat downstairs alone to do so, which was rare, for I was always afraid at this point in my life. I would see shadow people regularly, and other paranormal things would happen, but I felt pretty good. Besides, my siblings didn't seem interested in the movie I was watching, plus my mom had cable in her room, and the cable box had a chip, so we could watch pay-per-view for free, so they stayed upstairs. Now, like I said, everything was going good. When about halfway through this movie, I see out of the corner of my eye someone step into the doorway of our kitchen. I turn to look, and I see a figure standing there. It looks like a man. The only difference is he's as white as snow. His skin and his clothes as white as a blank piece of paper. But his eyes were black, so black they were void-like. I didn't scream or run away, weirdly enough. I just stared at it and it stared at me. So I slowly got up and made my way upstairs to where my siblings were. I was trying to explain to my older brother that I saw something downstairs. The creepy thing is, it didn't move from its spot as it slowly left my view as I went up to the stairs. I also did not feel any negative or malicious energy from it. It was just startling, seeing an all-white man standing there. I was used to shadow people, and also that bag man from earlier. So my question is, has anyone else ever encountered a pale white person with black eyes? Followed. I lived alone for like 4 years, when I was 21 to 25. I lived in a fairly sized town outside a major city. It was the best. I never had anything bad happen to me while living there. It was far enough outside the city, the air was fresh. The mountains were so close, I literally could hike a mile away. This was until the last year. A little backstory. This friend of mine was someone I met in the military. He was pretty much like my brother. So after my birthday, it was close to Christmas. I always dreaded this time of the year. I had that friend who needed a favor. His friend needed to make quick cash. That person came out and we had an argument that they'd help me if I helped them. While getting to know this person, they said something that was a red flag immediately. She had said she had a dark side, not in an attractive way. So anyway, about 2 months go by. This person has basically made a big effort to know everything about me, which I found creepy. She made it a mission to know my friends and family, learned every detail about my daily life. Anyway, I get tired of it because she didn't hold her own here. She never paid for anything, so I told her to get gone as nicely as possible. She gave me this big sob story that she had to pawn her ring to go back. I agreed that I would get it out if she got a flight back home. So I helped her to get her flight back home, and a few weeks later, I sent off her ring, but she claims it never made it. So it's not as it seems, another friend needed a favor. So I let the friend stay at my house a few days until we found out that guy was wanted and sold heavy duty drugs, so I kicked him out. A few weeks after all of this, everything seems normal. Until one day, I come home to my front door unlocked. I figured no big deal as the landlord lives across the way and the neighbors would say something if anything was out of place. So I walk in and notice there are fingerprints all over my door. I had a white door and the fingerprints were like some dirty hands, almost like grease. I asked my neighbors if they saw anything and they said they saw nothing. I worked a swing shift, didn't get home till about 10 or 12 at night, and my work was so close in town I'd often just walk. So a week goes by and I come home to the strangest thing ever. I had a jar of pennies. Every penny I had saved was placed in small triangle shapes on the carpet throughout my apartment. My two cats were acting weird instead of the loving, welcoming cats like usually I get from them. For some big reason, they were terrified. I still thought maybe someone's fucking with me. It still didn't faze me too much. So a few days later, my furniture was slightly all moved, and all of my cupboards were left open. This time I started getting pissed off. So I changed the locks to my apartment. Within these past 2 weeks, I felt weird. Almost drugged. I've just felt off. Every afternoon I woke up, I was very sluggish and almost like when you had taken too much cough medicine from a cold. Now I do believe I'm a very logical thinker. And I do believe in ghosts, but don't think it was that far as my furniture moved. This bothered me. Who would break in and not take anything and move all my stuff around? It was hard because I was very stressed out at the time. I had to make up for all those months of the couch potato had free ride / vacation at my home. So the next morning I woke up. Here's where shit got itself real quick. I get to work and I get home. I always buy a Monster just to kind of get my energy pumping. And then I would go chill at park that was next to the plant I worked at. In this town, after 10 it was basically dead. No one would go out. In this park, there was 2 sidewalks to get in and get out, opposite ends of the park. At each end of the park, there were light posts. There were 2 really tall, possibly 6'7" to 7 foot, creepy ass guys standing on each end of the sidewalk leading into the park. A really weird thing I noticed is that the one guy looked at me that did something really weird with his hand. He looked at it, and the other guy. What was strange about it was that they were both wearing sunglasses at night, and this freaked me out, so I took off running. I ran all the way home, and shit got crazier. Across the street from where I lived, there was a high school. It had a big parking lot, and I noticed for the 4 years I lived there, no cars ever at night in that parking lot. But that same night, an SUV was parked there and faced my front window and front door. It continued to park there every single night after this incident. Go outside to smoke a cigarette and it would turn on his bright lights at me. So I started to lock everything when I went to sleep. Some nights I hear knocking on my window. I'd wake up and that car would still be parked outside. I finally called the cops. They took down everything that happened, and as of then, the SUV stopped parking there for at least 3 days. The police never found out who it was, so I figured it was over. Every night the SUV would follow me home. The windows were so tint that you couldn't see anyone in it. By this point I'd figure I'd call the cops, but every time I seemed to bring out my phone, the car would just speed off. So I had a car, so I figured I should start driving it. It would be much easier than walking and having somebody follow me. But this is where it got a little weirder. There were other blacked out cars that followed me everywhere I was going. One night I drove for an hour to make sure I wasn't losing my shit. So if I turned left, the weird thing was, they would turn left. If I'd stop at a store, a middle-aged man would get out and go into the store where I went, always wearing sunglasses, no matter what time of the day. By this point I'm weirded out after all this. So I started telling people, and everybody started thinking I was losing my shit besides one relative. We talked about it and he came up with a plan. He was to follow me and to see if I were to get followed by another car. About 5 minutes after driving down the road, all of a sudden there was somebody following both of us. So he took a left and I took a right. And weirdly enough, both of the cars split up and followed both of us. I remember getting home that night, and I'm positive somebody was in my apartment when I walked in the door. Because when I walked in the door, my back door shut when my front one opened. My grandmother's haunted house. So I was around 6 months old when this incident happened. How do I know about it? My mom. So when I was about 6 months old, me and my family lived at my grandmother's house. It was at about 10:45 p.m. and my parents were watching the television. It was getting late, so they were going to bed. As my dad was showering, my mom was getting their bed ready. But that's when she heard thumping sounds coming from the attic. My mother ran to the bathroom and knocked on the door. My dad came out, toothbrush in hand, and said, "I'll check on it later." Later that night, he went to the attic and said, "Nothing is up here." He closed the attic door and they went to bed. They both woke up to the sound of my brother crying. He said there's a weird bump sound in my room, and then they heard footsteps coming from the living room as he said it. That's when their hearts dropped. Thank you all so much for sticking around till the end of the video. If you guys did, make sure to leave a like, as I really do appreciate it. It really does bring a smile to my face, and I really do love you guys even more. If you guys are new around here, make sure to hit that subscribe button, as we are on our way to 500 subscribers. The support over the past few days have been absolutely crazy, and I would just love to say thank you to everybody coming out and checking out, and I would love to say thank you to Frosty and thank you to Violet Moon for coming and helping me record. But thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully I can see you guys back here tomorrow. I love you guys. Have a beautiful day, a beautiful night, and like always, peace out.